So Donald Trump was giving a campaign speech in New Mexico, and he made some interesting comments about Bernie supporters. He said, "I'm hearing we're going to get close to 40% of his supporters. We're going to get them because he's not going to win. The system is rigged against Bernie, so he can't win. A lot of Bernie Sanders people have said they're voting for Trump. We're going to get tremendous numbers from Bernie Sanders." I love how when you read a quote of him on paper, you hear what he's like in person as you're reading it on paper. As soon as you see the word tremendous, you're like, oh, that is so Trump. Now, there's a lot to say about this. He thinks 40% of Bernie supporters are going to go to him. But first, let's go to the facts. So, according to the exit polls from the West Virginia Democratic primary, quote, nearly half of the voters who backed Bernie Sanders say they would vote for Republican Donald Trump in the presidential election. God damn! 44% of Sanders supporters surveyed said they would rather back the presumptive GOP nominee in November, with only 23% saying they'd support Democratic frontrunner Hillary Clinton. All right, so if you look just at West Virginia, Trump is right, because he's saying, hey, 40% are going to vote for me. Well, in West Virginia, it's actually 44%. So, you know, overall, and I'm going to get to it here, he's not right, but there's a grain of truth in what he's saying if you look at West Virginia as a microcosm, which of course it isn't. But if you were to do that, well, then he's not freakishly off base. So, let me give you more facts. According to the most recent YouGov poll, 61% of Sanders voters have an unfavorable view of Clinton, against just 38% with a favorable one. Damn. YouGov has been tracking these numbers for several months, and they've gradually gotten worse for Clinton. Okay, pause here. This is directly related to the type of campaign that she's run against Bernie. We're not stupid. Bernie supporters are not stupid. And we know when you're going below the belt, and we know when you're using dirty politics. And you've been using dirty politics, which is why over time, it's not like everybody who's a Bernie supporter from the beginning was like, oh yeah, fuck Hillary. No, when you started saying stuff like using the fact that he's a Democratic socialist against him and comparing him, as she did in one of the debates, to dictators in Latin America, and, you know, saying, oh, I guess you agree with Castro and stuff like that. And saying in one of the debates, when he says he's anti-establishment and you're pro-establishment, when you said, I'm a woman, I would be the first woman president, so how can I be establishment? When you start using arguments like that, people are going to start to not like you, because that's such a hacky point. That's such a giant sidestep of the point he's making, and it's just smearing him. When you can't win on policy, you go to say stuff like, for example, we can't afford what he wants to do. Well, you're running to be the Democratic nominee, and you're arguing that we can't afford single-payer healthcare, which virtually every other modern nation has, and universal college. We can't afford that. We don't have the money. But then Hillary Clinton is the same person who voted for the war in Iraq, which by 2053, when you include the interest, it will cost $7 trillion. So you voted for a $7 trillion war, and then you turn around and say, I can't let you get an education, and I can't have universal health care. Well, then we don't like you. We don't like you if you do that, because that is absolutely preposterous. So that's why now 61% of Bernie supporters are like, hey, fuck you. And then also when you dig in, the more stuff you know about Hillary, the more a normal person wouldn't like her. Oh, you pretend like you're for the people half the time, but then we notice you got $675,000 from Goldman Sachs to give speeches. You've raised millions of dollars just to give speeches to giant corporations. You used to be for single payer. Then you took money from the health insurance industry. Now all of a sudden, look at that. You're not for single payer anymore. You used to be against a bankruptcy bill that rigged the rules in favor of corporations. Then when you ran for senator and you took money from the industry, all of a sudden, boom, now you support the bankruptcy bill that biases bankruptcies in favor of big corporations. And the list goes on and on. We don't like that you voted for the Patriot Act. We don't like 1,000,001 of your votes. You literally stood on the floor of the Senate and argued that flag burning should be illegal and punished by up to a year in jail. You don't even believe in the First Amendment. So, yeah, the more we learn about you, the more we're like, oh my God. It took her until 2013 to come around on gay marriage. 2013. 53% of people support it. Not budging yet. 55%? Okay, maybe now. Oh, I love gay people. What are you talking about? Meanwhile, we've all seen the clips of her like, hey, should gay marriage be legal? No. I'm not for gay marriage. I'm for some sort of contractual unions, and she obviously evolved. No, if you can't figure that one out by 2012, I don't trust your judgment. So, yeah, the more you learn about her, the more you go, gross. Now, they continue here. In the YouGov poll, just 55% of Sanders supporters said they'd vote for Clinton over Trump in November. However, only 15% said they'd vote for Trump. That leaves 30% of Sanders voters who say they are undecided and would vote for a third-party candidate or would sit out the election. All right, so overall, so in the whole country, when I gave you the numbers before, that was just West Virginia. And like I said, West Virginia is not really a microcosm of the United States for various reasons. But when you do a broader poll for the United States, the number's not 40%, which is inflated and a little preposterous. It's 15%. Here's my response to that. Time to panic. Because 15, that's not normal. Like, it's not normal to say, oh, so you're a supporter of a Democratic candidate, and if that Democratic candidate doesn't get the nomination, well, then 15% of you are going to go to the Republican. That's not a thing. Like, that doesn't happen in other elections. That's not where, like, people don't go, yeah, you know, I preferred whoever, John Edwards, but if John Edwards doesn't get it, obviously I'm going to back Rick Santorum. People be like, no, that's not, they're so radically different that doesn't happen. But Trump, because of how he's run his campaign and because of his anti-establishment rhetoric, again, we've proven over and over he's not actually anti-establishment, but because of that good rhetoric, well, then you have Bernie supporters who are like, well, this guy's actually more anti-establishment than she is, so I might go for him. He said he's going to protect Social Security and Medicare. He said he's going to not outsource jobs. So he does this pro-union rhetoric. He claims to look out for, middle-class voters. Well, that former Republican candidates, they don't do that. They don't even bother to pay lip service. They're just like, yeah, I blow the rich. That's what I do. Trump at least pretends like he's for the people. And Hillary's run such a bad campaign that people are like, I think he might be more for the middle class than she is. Again, I don't necessarily think that's true. I don't think either one of them cares about the middle class. But it's resonating to the point where 15% of Bernie supporters are like, yeah, I'd go for Trump. And then, by the way, that can give or take probably 5 percentage points or maybe even more. So it could be up to 20% of Bernie supporters who end up going for Trump. And let me be crystal clear about this. Who do I blame most for that? Hillary Clinton. People are going to try to blame Bernie Sanders, but that would be ridiculous. You blame Hillary for not getting the votes of big-time left-leaning independents because she doesn't represent them. And her record has been disastrous. And she hasn't run a good campaign. And she's poised to run an even worse campaign. So, what do you do? Like, if you're Hillary Clinton's campaign, what they should care about is, oh my God, how do we get that 15% of Bernie supporters who are going to go for Trump to go for me? And how do we convince the 30% who are undecided? That should be your only focus throughout the entire general election. What they're going to do is the opposite of that. They're going to run to the right because that's the way the model works. Run to the right, and then you'll get in moderates. But okay, that's not going to work. You're supposed to theoretically run to the right to gain independence, but the independents are with Bernie. So you should run to the left to get the independents. I know logic is hard.